Hi, this is Juniper. I am the dancer and designer behind Art of Raqs, which you might recognize from the All Rocks Conference charity merch. And I had every intention of watching every single lecture before expiration, and I almost made it. So it's just a testament to how much value we got out of this bundle, that there was like truly too much to consume in the course of daily life. But I wanted to share some of my reactions, some of the things that stuck with me. I'm not going to be covering everything, but there is a certain theme that I saw making connections across some of the lectures, and that has to do with vulnerability. Um, you might see my cats popping in and out. They are really happy to be in the guest room right now. So anyway, I started taking notes on this theme after Samantha's lecture. You don't hate posting on social media, you hate vulnerability. So there is so much telling us not to trust each other in the world right now, and it's really hard to preserve that sense of vulnerability. And what does real vulnerability look like? What's the value? And I think that one of the most valuable things about vulnerability is that it makes us build real connections. It goes beyond the surface. And being real with each other was, another theme that came up in the conference. And I thought it was so cool to see so many of our tutors go push themselves beyond the usual comfortable envelope that you might see in your typical Zoom lecture and get very emotional and very deep. In particular, I'd say that Zara's talk about the real dangers of isolation really hit hard because it's our hunger for relevance, as she correctly identified, that can put us into these situations where we're making choices that are more and more compromised because we value what we're getting out of these risky choices. And it usually involves distancing yourself from people who tell you you might be making the wrong choices. So when we are vulnerable online, it feels especially risky since so much of our audience we don't know. And I know that a lot of us have learned to just sort of figuratively or literally block out comments that don't hit us right, that don't land right. But going with what Josiero was saying about the value of feedback, sometimes the most valuable feedback you get might not be what you want to hear at all. It might even be rude. It might be, just someone who is rude enough to say what other people are thinking. And when you get those messages, depending on who it's coming from, it might be worth considering. Is this how I want to present to the world? So I guess what I'm saying here is beyond just having the bravery to post something vulnerable in the first place, what are you willing to get out of it? And I don't want to necessarily go okay, if it's not from the people that I already know and trust, then it's not worth it listening to. It's not worth hearing if it sounds like they just don't get me. Basically the hater's gonna hate thing. You can block out some really useful life-changing things if you just kind of brush things off. I am going to use as an example one of the few times I took something down from social media was after I did a protest piece here at our national conference in New Zealand, hosted by Meet-Ans. So I did this piece where I used a baby doll and a keffiyeh, and it was all about, the feeling that mothers get, identifying, putting yourself in that place, how would I feel? And the empathy that brings up. And I was really nervous about it, of course, because you never know how really political pieces are going to go over, if people are going to get it. And, sometimes people get a different message, and to an extent that's out of your hands because that's just kind of how dance is. Sometimes you make a piece, You have some intentions. Either it lands or it doesn't. Maybe people get a different message out of it, but they're getting something out of it. And based on the reactions I got in person, it was very, very positive. So I found that so encouraging, and also the support of the organizers so encouraging that I posted a short clip from the piece on Instagram in a sort of celebration of that successful protest piece. And pretty soon afterwards, I saw on Facebook someone had noticed and posted a screenshot, not identifying me, not trying to like call me out directly, saying like, can't we do better? This is like really disrespectful. And this woman who had posted the commentary was saying that Palestinians and other genocide survivors had gotten in touch with her saying like, what is up with this? This is crazy. So I hadn't thought about how it would look with just out of context a short clip by people who don't know me and my intentions. And while, yeah, I could have said, oh, I had all these intentions, and I did like talk about that a little bit, about what was really going on in the piece, because you can't tell from the Instagram clip. But that's the whole point. You can't tell from the Instagram clip. It's just out of context, and people aren't prepared. They're not sitting in a theater. They're not listening to your introduction. They're not getting the real story. So knowing that people who are actually losing their family were just like off their guard, finding this on Instagram, yeah, that was doing some actual harm. And so I believe it was Samantha who, in her workshop, asked us to imagine, like, what's the worst that can happen if you post something that people disagree with on the internet. And I think for me, it's not so much like loss of business or like the loss of credibility, like, although those hurt. I think the worst thing that could happen is if I had hurt somebody and there was nothing I could do to make it better. And I think in this case, the best thing I could do was, apologize on the thread on Facebook and just take the video down entirely. So even though I was proud of the piece in the moment and in the context in which I made it, it was only meant for that audience, is what I learned. Sometimes people need to know you personally to really get where you're coming from. And yeah, sure, you can explain yourself. But I think the end lesson that I'm trying to get at here is, what is your game plan for when you're wrong? Because you will sometimes be wrong, inevitably. No matter what's in your heart, you can be capable of deep harm. Even if, you have this like wonderful history of helping everyone and being so open, like whatever it is, like, in the moment that somebody is hurt, that's all that matters to them. So being vulnerable in that kind of situation is being open to repair, to repairing the rupture that just happened. So like Aziza said in her lecture, she asked a really interesting question, which is, what is the best thing I can contribute to this situation? And that goes for any situation you're in. Like, what is the best thing I can contribute? And sometimes that might be removing yourself from the situation, but a lot of the time it is reacting sensitively and with like a lack of defensiveness to an evolving situation. She also said to focus on what you can control. You can't control people's reactions. You can control how you react to the reactions. You can be prepared. You can be as trustworthy as you can. Those were two things she mentioned. Be prepared, be trustworthy. That's just being a professional. And, being trustworthy is applicable to all spheres of life, isn't it? So that is a loaded word, being trustworthy, and you can work on that in so many different ways. I am working on it actively as much as I can, I think. And Aziza also mentioned the dancer who knows and understands what her intention is and the impact of how she holds herself and how she presents herself. So those all apply to like, what if things go wrong on social media or in person? But all in all, there were so many people who were talking about the value of being your whole self. Amanda's talking about, treating your clients holistically if you're a coach. And that means that you can't just talk about the problem. You need to, like, be a whole person when you're dealing with others, and to engage authentically and as openly as possible. So that was really valuable to hear all these professionals agreeing, like, without necessarily knowing beforehand. Like, I think that they agree on a lot of fundamentals here. Then I'm just trying to like make those connections as my takeaway. And Manar definitely focused on people feeling like they're not enough. And I realized that a large reason that I'm on social media at all is because I want to feel relevant. And just like Zara mentioned, that hunger for relevance can get you in some sticky situations, some real trouble. So just knowing that you are enough with what how you exist doesn't mean there's no room for improvement. We're always learning, we're always improving. As Sharzad said, you don't know what you don't know. And that's also a key phrase in activism as well. Like, once you know better, you do better. And I was so encouraged to see so much display of solidarity from so many of the lecturers. Free Palestine, this was such an amazing, amazing conference. I'm really impressed with how Shayla and all of the helpers and teachers and everybody were just so on the same page in so many different ways. So I really hope that it comes together again for next year, but whenever it happens, I'm going to be there. And thanks for listening to my little wandering my little wandering journey of what I learned from All Raqs conference.